Welcome to XIO Voice. Continuing from the previous episode 170. The beautiful, five-colored flame swept across the sky. Its frighteningly high temperature caused the air to distort. One's sight would appear a little blurry when one looked over. Faced with this terrifying, five-colored flames, a countless number of people within Yi City experienced a change in their expressions. Even with the isolation of the fire curtain, they could still sense the wild strength that caused one to be scared. It was difficult to imagine just what it would be like if they were in the place of Tien Shei's group. This answer was something that those who had not experienced firsthand could not clearly give. However, regardless of how stupid a person was, he would know that this kind of feeling would definitely not allow one to feel good. Of course, it was just as everyone had expected. The expressions of Tien Shei's group had become unusually ugly while they stood within the light formation. The destructive strength hidden within the brilliant flame was just like a poison needle hidden in the darkness, causing all of them to feel a continuous chill within their hearts. "Old Shi, what should we do?" Bing Zhan swallowed a mouthful of saliva. His expression contained a little panic. That bright, five-colored sea of fire was really too frightening. If they were to allow themselves to fall into it, it was likely that the remaining two seven-star Do Zongs would end up with a terrible fate. They were practitioners of icy cold Do Qi. Currently, the five-colored flame had coincidentally suppressed them. If they did not use some techniques, it was likely that they would perish in this place when the flame arrived. "What is there to panic about?" Tien Shei's expression sank as he coldly reprimanded. He immediately continued in a deep tone, "He may have a formation, but so does our Ice River Valley. Form the Ice River Formation. This brat's explosive force is indeed very strong, but it will definitely be unable to last for long. Once the time limit of his Skyfire 3 mysterious change is up, this great formation will naturally be broken. At that time, it would only be too easy to kill him." Tien Shei was indeed worthy of being an expert renowned throughout the Pill region. Even in the face of such a situation, he did not reveal the slightest panic. Instead, he had identified the fatal weakness of Xiaoyan's strength within a sentence. Bing Zhan's and Bing Hua's old faces turned red when they heard Tien Shei reprimanding them. They immediately nodded. Both of them stepped forward and took a position of the formation. A bone-chilling aura surged out of their bodies. Tien Shei's expression was dark and solemn as he looked at Xiaoyan in the distance. The snake-shaped walking stick in his hand slammed heavily against the empty air. A vast, mighty, cold aura surged out of his body and merged with the cold aura from the other two. It solidified into a clear white ice mirror that protected the three of them. The snow-white ice mirror was completely formed to form the mighty aura of these three people. Its defensive strength was extremely terrifying. It was likely that even an expert at the peak of the Do Zong class would have difficulty breaking it, even after using their entire strength. When this ice mirror was formed, the five-colored sea of flames came pouncing over. After which, it drowned the cold ice mirror within a fierce, intense flame. The five-colored flame had just made contact with the snow-white, cold ice mirror's surface when it suddenly emitted a sizzling sound. Tons of white-colored, cold fog poured from the surface of the ice-cold mirror, wildly blocking the burning and grilling of the five-colored flames. Chi-chi! Droplets of ice-cold water continuously appeared on the surface of the ice mirror. After which, they rolled down the smooth mirror and were swiftly vaporized by the churning five-colored flame into nothingness. A brilliant sea of flames permeated the interior of the large light formation. A snow-white ice mirror surfaced in the middle of the sea of flame. One could vaguely see three blurry figures within it. Xiaoyan's eyes were cold and indifferent as he stared at the surface of the mirror that was melting. The corner of his mouth revealed a cold smile. The creation of the five types of flames created an overbearingness that even Xiaoyan himself was surprised about. Although there was indeed quite a big gap between Tien Shei and him, by relying on the Skyfire 3 mysterious change and the five-ring flame expelling technique, this gap had already shrunk until it was extremely small. Attempting to forcefully fight against this five-colored flame at this moment could only be described as seeking one's own suffering. The five-colored sea of flames fiercely burned. Its terrifying temperature caused the interior of the light formation to become extremely distorted. There were even some dark black spatial scars appearing. The thick crystal layer of the snow-white ice mirror, within the sea of flame, was melting. The melting speed caused Tien Shei's group to involuntarily change their expressions. Due to the suppression of their affinity, This five-colored flame's destructive strength could be described as having reached an extremely vivid state. Old Shi, if this continues, it will be too much of a drain on our Do Chi. We might not even be able to endure until the time limit of that brat's secret technique is up. Bingzhan's palm was supporting the ice layer above his head. Cold Chi was following his arm and pouring into the ice layer. Even though this was the case, he was still able to sense an extremely wild and violent heat seeping in. Tien Shei's expression was volatile. He had underestimated the destructive strength of the five-colored flames. Transfer all of the ice Zune force within your bodies into mine when the ice mirror shatters. I will use the attack and kill that brat in one blow. Bingzhan and Binghua hesitated for a moment after hearing Tien Shei's dense, cold voice. Immediately, they could only emit a bitterness from their mouths and nod. If the interior of their bodies did not possess the protection of the ice Zune force, it was likely that they would suffer a ruthless searing pain in this terrifying sea of flames. Tien Shei ignored their bitter smiles. His eyes were focused intently on a space outside of the ice mirror. There was a vague figure at that spot. Crack! The five-colored flame crazily raged. Under its terrifyingly high temperature, the amount of water droplets on the tough ice mirror began to increase. The thick ice mirror gradually became thinner. Quite a number of people within Yi City felt their heads become numb as they watched this exchange within the light formation. That young figure had given them a shock that they had difficulty imagining. Not only did he defeat a protector from the Hall of Souls, but he was currently relying on his own strength to trap the three great elders of the Ice River Valley within the Sea of Flames, causing them to be unable to move. This battle result would cause some heated blood to boil by just hearing about it, much less personally witnessing it at this moment. Crack! A slight sound was suddenly emitted from within the light formation while a countless number of gazes were focusing on it. Immediately, many eyes abruptly narrowed. One could see numerous tiny cracks beginning to spread over the tough ice mirror. What a terrifying sea of flames! Even the combined strength of the three Ice River Valley's elders could not block it. Countless numbers of exclamations were immediately emitted from within Yi City when they saw this scene. Boom! The cracks spread at a faster speed. In the end, the ice mirror suddenly shook and blasted apart. Countless ice fragments shot in all directions as a shockingly cold aura spread out. For an instant, it even forced back this five-colored flame. While the cold chi spread, Bingzhan and Binghua let out a furious cry as each of them placed a palm on Tien Shei's back. A vast, mighty Do Chi, that contained a tiny ice crumb, surged into Tien Shei's body. After the ice Zune force within Bingzhan's and Binghua's bodies was inserted into Tien Shei's body, one could hear a crack sound. Layer after layer of faint blue ice was quietly emitted from under Tien Shei's skin. In an instant, it formed a thin, pale blue ice cloth on the surface of his body. A wave of extremely terrifying pale blue-colored cold air suddenly surged out of Tien Shei's body when this ice layer appeared. In the face of this pale blue-colored cold air, one could see the surrounding five-colored flame pushed over 100 feet away. Waves of dense, white fog would erupt each time the flame pounced over. Tien Shei sensed the terrifyingly high temperature that the five-colored flame radiated when the pale blue ice layer appeared. Over half of it had actually disappeared. Immediately, a fierce glint flashed over both of his eyes. He raised his head and stared at the distant Xiaoyan in a dense manner. His voice contained an incomparable chill as it reverberated over the light formation. Brat, it ends here. The dense voice had just sounded when Tien Shei suddenly clenched his hand. Wave after wave of liquid, like faint blue energy, surged out of his hand. This kind of faint blue-colored energy still had some tiny ice fragments floating within it, emitting a strange luster. Tien Shei's hand grabbed this faint blue-colored liquid. After which, he suddenly pulled. This cluster of liquid wiggled and formed a 20-foot large blue ice bow. The cold air in this place suddenly surged after this ice bow appeared. After which, even the monstrous five-colored flame from earlier began to withdraw some distance away. Ice God Bow! Tien Shei's expression was dark and cold. His hand pulled the bowstring. A creaking sound was emitted as the bow was pulled until it was fully extended. The terrifying cold air gathered and a 10-foot large blue-colored ice arrow slowly appeared on the bow's string. The appearance of the ice arrow caused Xiaoyan's expression to sink. He could sense that even the permeating five-colored sea of fire had quietly parted to form a line for the target of the ice arrow. This Tien Shei is indeed worthy of being an expert at the peak of the Dozong class. He is so difficult to finish off. Xiao Yan gently inhaled a breath of air. A fierceness flashed across his eyes. The seal formed by his hands suddenly changed. Following the change in the seal formed by his hands, the 5 colored flames that permeated the interior of the light formation began to churn. Immediately, the entire formation surged to Xiao Yan in all directions, gathering on his right hand. Chi, with an increasing amount of 5 colored flames gathering on Xiao Yan's arm, a 100-foot large 5 colored flame hand slowly wiggled and appeared. It was worn over Xiao Yan's hand. Looking at it from a distance, it appeared just like the arm of a fire god, possessing unrivaled power that could destroy the world. This arrow will take your life. The corner of Tien Shei's eyes were lifted when he saw the enormous flame arm. A ferocious expression was immediately added on his face. With a cold cry, the fully extended bow in hands emitted a bang as it was released. Ice God Arrow, sealing the world in ice. When his fingers were released, the 10-foot large blue ice arrow emitted a swoosh sound as it rushed out. The cold air of nature surged wherever the arrow passed. Even the surrounding fire curtain turned unusually dim. Xiao Yan's expression was fierce. He looked at the blue line magnifying at a lightning-like speed. The fierceness in it flashed and his body became a little sluggish. After which, his foot stepped on the empty air in front of a countless number of shocked gazes. He waved his fire god-like arm and violently slammed it toward the blue-colored arrow that was being shot over with a fierce momentum that would frighten anyone looking at it. Fire god arm, destroying the world.